Good morning, students. Am I audible? Is my voice okay now? Volume? Sushant Yamini? Okay, thanks, ma. So let's start with today's session. So we have already started with Unit 2. Today we are going to see the second topic, planning process. Okay. Before that, we shall look into purpose of planning also. If my voice is too low, you can switch on the mic and tell me. Purpose of planning. So let's first see what is planning again. Planning is a process of selecting objectives and determining the course of action to achieve those objectives. So we have seen n number of definitions yesterday, say at least 4 to 5. So according to Coons and O'Donnell, planning is deciding in advance what to do, how to do it, and when to do it, and who is to do it. So we are going to see what is the purpose of planning now. First, when we talk about planning, planning is one of the prerequisites for the survival as well as growth of any organization. So it is always necessary to plan so that the organization is goes well in the market. Okay, organizations often fail not just because of the lack of resources but also because of poor planning. So we are going to see the list of importance or purpose of planning now. First, it is necessary to plan because it is the primary function in any managerial activity. And second, it is necessary to plan in order to achieve objectives, to cope up with uncertainty and changes, to facilitate control, to help in coordination, and to increase organizational effectiveness, to guide decision making process. So these are the 7 points under purpose of planning. So now we are going to look at each and every point in detail. When we talk about the first point, it is nothing but it is a primary function. I was insisting on this point from yesterday. It is a primary function because planning is the function or planning activity is the activity that precedes all other managerial activities such as organizing, controlling, staffing, directing, etc. So all these functions are performed, which means all other functions except planning. Okay, all these functions are performed to achieve the objectives that are already set by the planning process, which means we are going to decide on the objectives and the requirements gathering and the resources, and then we are going to set the plan. Based on this planning only, we are going to proceed with all other managerial activity. So it is the primary function. Okay. So all these objectives are set by the planning process for the other managerial activities. So the second one is to achieve objectives. We are going to see how this planning process is going to impact the objectives or goals set. Okay. First, when we talk about planning, planning is always directed towards attainment of organizational objectives only. If I am making a plan, say for example, if I am making a plan, I should think and analyze properly and also go for questions such as why am I making this plan? What am I trying to accomplish or achieve? What resources do I require or need to execute this plan? I repeat, whenever I'm deciding or making a plan, I should think about why am I making this plan? What am I trying to accomplish or achieve? What resources do I require to execute these plans? Whenever we make a plan, we should analyze all the available resources and I should make an effective plan with the available resources only. That would be the better way of doing the planning process. That is why we always think what to be achieved, which means based on the objectives only, I'll have to decide my plan, isn't it? So the first question should be what am I trying to achieve. The second one is what are the resources that are needed to achieve the goal. And obviously, the third point would be why am I making this plan? Obviously, this was achieving the objective. Might be I might have a major plan followed by support plans also, minor plans, or plans for different subordinate teams and plan for the entire project at organization level. So all these questions should be answered properly. When we are able to answer all these questions, then it provides a better clarity on the objectives. So planning is to achieve objectives. That is why I plan. That is the purpose of planning. The third point here says about coping up with the uncertainties and the changes. Changes might happen in the market field, or it might happen in the environment, or the changes could be brought even by the customers. So we have to cope up with all these uncertainty and changes. Though I make a plan, the plan is not a rigid plan, isn't it? Plan is always flexible. So based on the changes that are happening, I'm going to modify the plan. So whenever I plan, it helps us in meeting the uncertainties and coping up with it. There is a continuous change in the environment. So, in a good organization has to work to accelerate such changes. This change can be both in tangible as well as intangible forms. When we talk about tangible changes could be changes in technology, market forces, government regulations, etc. When we talk about intangible changes, those changes in attitudes, values, culture, etc. So the changes or the factors reflecting attitude, change in attitude, values, culture, all these falls under the category called as intangible factors. So whenever we talk about the changes in the environment, an organization must be able to work in accelerating the changes. And we should also check with both tangible and intangible factors which are going to create impact or which are going to create all these uncertainties. So the planning helps to minimize the risk by taking advantages in the opportunities. Since because I'm going to handle all these, obviously it is going to minimize the risk in doing the project or creating a or developing a product. And also we are going to take the best of the opportunities. We are going to take advantages of the opportunities available. So whenever we make changes in the plan, it will be based on the present scenario, isn't it? When we say present scenario, we are going to analyze all those factors affecting the original plan and we are going to modify the plan so that we achieve the desired results in a better way. So planning always helps in minimizing the risk while taking advantages of the opportunities. This is all about coping up with the uncertainty and changes. The keywords here are tangible factors and intangible factors. Tangible, I repeat the examples again, the changes in technology, market forces, government regulations. When we talk about intangible, these are the changes in attitude, values, culture, etc. The fourth purpose here is to facilitate control. What do you mean by control? We do have another managerial activity called as controlling. But then while doing planning itself, we are going to implement this control. We are going to make sure that control is being implemented. Control involves measurement of accomplishment of events. You can ask me, all these actions will be executed or put in action in the forthcoming activities only. But then we are going to make sure while executing all those actions, how am I going to control all those? So control is one such important thing. To have control and coordination, planning is necessary because I may involve 5 or 6 teams in doing a particular project. All these teams should work in cooperation and there should be a control over all these teams. Only if there is a proper planning, all these are possible. So control involves measurement of accomplishment of events and corrections of deviations. So when there is a deviation, we are going to correct all those corrections of deviations to, to assure that we meet the objectives or the goals. So it is to measure the accomplishment of the events and do corrections if there are any deviations. Okay. There. Without planning, we do not even know what to control. So planning is obviously necessary. Without a proper plan, different teams will not have an idea of what to be controlled, when to be controlled, and who is responsible for this process. So planning is necessary. Planning provides the standards with which the actual performance can be measured. Which means here we are going to specify all those techniques, algorithms that have to be implemented. Implementation is not going to happen at this phase, but we are going to analyze all those that are needed so that we can measure the actual performance. So planning provides the standards with which the actual performance can be measured and corrective actions can be taken whenever necessary. It's not compulsory that I should go with the corrective actions unless there are any deviations or pitfalls. So we should make sure that we should deal with the deviations. When to deal with deviations? Only when there are deviations. How do we know that there are deviations in this? We are going to measure the actual performance. Measure the actual performance and then compare that with the goals set. So I need a plan beforehand so that I can list out all the techniques that are needed to do all these tasks. Okay. So to facilitate control. That's one of the purpose of planning. The next, the fifth point is to help in coordination. As I've told, all the managerial functions lead to coordination in the organization. They all play a key role. Every managerial activity is responsible to bring coordination in the organization. Coordination is the essence of the management and planning is the base for it. So without planning, coordination is difficult to achieve or difficult to achieve the coordination in the organization. So planning is the base for it. The real coordination begins only with the planning stage. Okay. All departments work in accordance only with the overall plan. Isn't it? We do have something called as overall plan or major plan. All the different departments will work in accordance with the overall plan. So we need something called as coordination. Coordination is important when we are going to have different plans or different plans. I say it is a sub plan here. Okay. When we have a set of plans, we need coordination. And if you are going to have coordination among the plans, if I'm going to talk about different teams involved in doing a project, then we need coordination among all these teams so that we achieve the goal set. So coordination is important. Planning helps in coordination. The sixth point here is to increase organizational effectiveness. When we talk about organizational effectiveness, if an organization is able to achieve its objectives using the available resources only, then it is said to be an effective organization. With the available resources, we are going to bring the best products. It is not that I don't say that we should not bring in the changes or we should not go with the modern equipments. We can go with the modern equipments, but make sure that all those investments are worth for making the products. We should be able to earn profits out of it. In that case, it is okay. So any organization will be effective when it is able to achieve the objectives with the available resources within a particular time frame. So better planning only ensures organizational effectiveness in many ways. So planning sets the objectives of the organization in context of the sources available. I repeat, planning sets the objectives of the organization in context of the given resources. I was stressing on this point from yesterday. See, when I'm making a plan, I should analyze the objectives being set. I should learn about the objectives. I should learn all the facts that are helping in the object that are correlated or associated with the objectives. And then the second main point is I should go through the information about the resources available. Within the available resources only, I should make a plan. All these n number of plans, I said them, I call them as alternative plans, isn't it? All these alternatives are being framed only based on the available resources. Without considering the resources, I cannot go or make a plan. So Planning sets the objectives of the organization in context of resources only. So there is a correlation between objectives and resources here that is made by the planning process. So each resource of the organization will have a specific use, but only at a particular time, not throughout the phase. Okay, throughout all the phases, might be at a particular time. Anyways, each and every resource will have its own specific use. Thus, planning ensures that these resources are put into action in such a way that they are better used. So planning helps in using the resources in a better way in order to increase the organizational effectiveness. The key word here is about the resources available. Resources could be the devices, the human resources, the costs involved, and exit. Okay, it is generally I'm talking about the resources available in the organization. The last point is to guide decision making. We all know planning involves decision making skills, isn't it? That is why it is called as an intellectual process. So planning provides a basis for future oriented decisions. I'm unaware about the end product. I can make a plan. I can justify telling that with the help of plan, I can justify telling that it will it might result in a better product. It is just chances, uh, uh, probability of telling whether a product would be a better product or not. But only with the end result we can make sure. Only with the actual measurement we can make sure that whether it is a better product or not. Anyways, the planning is mostly dependent only on the future. So planning provides a basis for the future oriented decisions. Without planning, business doing business is a difficult process. So planning serves as a framework for making better decisions or random decisions. So to guide decision making, we need something called as planning. To do all other activities, all other managerial activities also, we need this planning. Planning will provide the list of actions and also sub plans called as minor plans that have to be accomplished at each and every level. Each and every level, I mean at each and every department or teams or at each and every managerial activity like staffing, organizing, controlling, etc. also. Okay, we do have a major plan. This major plan focuses on attaining the goals with respect to the organizational objectives. And so this is all about purpose of planning. So it is a primary function. To achieve objectives, we need a plan. To cope uncertainty and changes, we need plan. To facilitate control, to help in coordination, to increase organizational effectiveness, and at last but not least, to guide the decision making process. Or you can even use to improve the decision making skills in the organization. You can rephrase all these sentences, but then make sure that you bring in all these points, the keywords. So with this, the first topic in Unit 2 is over. The first topic in the syllabus is nature and purpose of planning. Yesterday we saw about introduction to planning, different definitions given in the textbook, prescribed textbook by different authors. And then we learned about the importance of planning, the nature of planning. Now purpose of planning is over. The next topic in the syllabus is planning process. These are the 8 steps involved in planning process. When you say a planning process which is suitable for a large scale organization might not be suitable for a small organization. So various factors have to be considered in this planning process. So it may differ from plan to plan and as well as from organization to organization. But then generally when a planning process is being done, it will have some common points. All those points are only listed here. Have a look at the screen, ma. There are 8 points. Okay. It is not necessary that you should have this way of this way of a diagram. You can go with a flow chart kind of things also. Like sequentially you can make it. The first point or the first step in planning process is perception of opportunities, which is identification of opportunities. The second one is establishment of objectives or establishing objectives. The third one is planning premises. Fourth, identification of alternatives. Fifth point is or the fifth step in the planning process is evaluation of alternatives, then choice of alternative plans, formulation of supporting plans. See, here it is about supporting plans, which means these are the minor plans which helps in achieving the overall plan. Okay, then comes the last one is establishing the sequence of activities. Yesterday in nature of planning, we had a term called as uniformity. Isn't it continuity, uniformity, and all those? When we talked about uniformity, I told there will be a sequence of action. We should follow the same sequence so that we achieve the plan. So establishing the sequence of activities. So which activity is to be done first, followed by which activity. All those should be listed in order. It is not that I will be having, like say for example, 10 activities or 10 steps in my course of action. Course of action is nothing but to-do list. In planning, we do have something called as to-do list only. Okay, we are going to make a plan. It will have few points. All those points are nothing but the activities to be done in the future managerial activities. So all these will be implemented in real time in the development phase. So these should be listed in order so that the plan is achieved or the goal set is being achieved properly. Okay. Let us have a detailed look at all of these 8 points. The first one being perception or identification of opportunities. When we talk about identification of opportunities, it is the very first step in planning. Without knowing the available opportunities, if I am unaware about the opportunities available, planning is not an easy task at all. I cannot even go with something called as planning. So identification of the opportunity is the starting point of planning. We should identify all the possible future opportunities and analyze them properly and also completely. By analyzing them, we should know where we stand, which means as an organization, where the organization stands, what are the strength and weakness of the organization, what problem the organization wish to solve and why, and what do we expect to gain. What does the organization expect to gain? I repeat, whenever we make, after identifying the opportunities, we should analyze questions like where do we stand, what are our strength and weakness, what problem we wish to solve and why is that, and what do we expect to gain. All these are to be considered after identification of the opportunities. All these are for the organization as a whole. So we are going to consider all the strengths and weakness. When we talk about the strengths and weakness of the organization, we might talk about the resources available and cost they could spare for doing the project or developing the products, and the resource people available, and what is the necessity for the organization to take up this product. It should help them in one or the other way, isn't it? So what profit, what is the gain they are going to take out of it? So all these questions should be answered and the first step of planning. When there are no answers available for all these, then it is no way going to help during the planning process or developing such products. We are going to drop that. Once the opportunities are perceived from availability, the other planning steps can be taken. The other planning steps, I mean, the remaining 7 steps that are given on the screen. The second step is establishment of objectives or goals. So the next step in planning is to establish objectives for the entire organization. The nature and purpose of planning, this was the first step, isn't it? So here in the actual planning process, this comes as the second point. After considering the opportunities only, we are going to set the goal. Okay. The second step in planning is to establish objectives for the entire organization and also subordinate units, which means you're going to create a major plan as well as minor plans or the plans that are to be executed by the subunits, subordinate units. The objectives, when they are set, they should be able to answer for questions like what is to be done, what is the or where is the primary emphasis to be placed, what is to be accomplished by all these plans. When we say all these plans, plural form, it is about the overall plan along with the support plans or subordinate plans. Let me repeat this. the objectives are set, we should be able to answer for questions like what is to be done, where is the emphasis that should be placed, or what is the primary emphasis, and what is to be accomplished by various types of plans. So, when we talk about the organizational objectives, it should focus on the key result areas. Let me tell you what are key result areas. Key result areas are those areas that are important for the organization to achieve its objectives. I repeat, key result areas are those areas that are important for an organization in achieving its objectives. Say, for example, profitability. Key result areas are profitability, sales, R&D, research and development area, manufacturing unit, etc. So when we talk about developing a product, we rely on the manufacturing unit, research and development. We should know what are the recent trends that are going on, whether this product is going to make profit or not. Sales, what is the sales scenario? How is the market feel? Profitability. Obviously, at the end of the day, every organization will go and check for the profitability. Anyways, the primary objective should be making a quality product, and then obviously it is profitability gain. These are the key result areas. So we should focus on all these. So organization objectives should be specified in all key result areas. We should analyze all these areas and make an objective. So once the overall objectives are set, we can go with the other subordinate objectives. So initially, overall objectives are set which shape the structure of all other subordinate objectives. So once the overall objective is set, then we are going to talk about departmental objectives, sectional objectives, and then individual objectives. Okay, individual objectives, when I mean it is to the particular people, like what is the objective that should be made by the manager and by the other people, or the people in the department. When we talk about departmental objectives, it will be focusing only on the department. For a particular department, what should be the objective for this overall plan? So all these are set. Once all these are set, we are going to talk about how these objectives will help in achieving the entire organizational goal. So overall objectives gives direction to the nature of all other plans of the major departments. Then department objectives must conform to the overall objectives. Though I say I'm going to create 10 or 15 minor plans for different departments, all these should conform to the overall objectives. So there will be an hierarchy of objectives in the organization. So under establishment of objectives, the points are, so we are going to set an overall objective, and then we are going to create subordinate objectives like individual objectives, departmental objectives, sectional objectives. First, overall objectives gives direction to all the plans, and departmental objectives are the subordinate objectives must conform to the overall objectives. These are the key points, and we are going to talk about the key result areas, and those areas should be covered while establishing the objectives. So these are the 3 points. First, key result area should be analyzed. Second, overall objective should be set. Okay, and then subordinate objectives should be framed, which should conform to the overall objectives. This is all about establishing objectives. The third one is planning premises. We are going to develop planning premises. So when we say planning premises, these are the assumptions that are made with the elements of the environment. It is something related to the environment. So let me show you the points also. When we talk about the planning premises, it is a study of external as well as internal environment. The other points in the perception and the establishment of objectives I've already covered. You can have a look at the first 2 points also. The third step is planning premises. It is a study of external and internal environment. So this planning premises provides the basic framework in which the plan actually operates. So this is a framework where the plan is going to get operated upon. So it provides the information about the environment. So now comes the point about external and internal environment. Now, internal premises, when we talk about the internal premises, it includes organizational policies, various types of resources available, sales forecasts, and the ability of the organization to withstand the environmental pressure. I'll repeat. Internal premises include organizational policies, various types of resources available, sales forecasts that are being done, and the ability of the organization to withstand the environmental pressure. Okay. Then when we talk about the external premises, they include political factors, social factors, technological factors, competitors in the market, other plans and actions to be made, government policies. So whenever external policies for prime premises or whenever we talk about the external plans and all those comes, we are going to make sure that we include government policies, government regulations. That is one of the factors. The other factors are political factors, social factors, technological factors, competitors in the market. All these are external. Whichever factors that are outside the organization are the external premises. Those factors that are within the organization, those will fall under internal premises. So this is all about developing planning premises, which means we are going to consider list all these available factors after considering. This is important when we are doing the planning process. So the nature of planning premises differs at different levels of planning. At the top level, this is important. At the top level, it is mostly externally focused. When we say the top level, which means the top level managers in the organization or the head in the head of the organization, or he or she will be involved in focusing the external premises only because they are the people who are responsible for following these government policies, political factors, looking into the competitors and the market fields, etc. When we talk about the internal premises, they are focused at the bottom level of the organization, which means all those are dealt by the actual workers. Those are involved in doing this project technically. So these are what planning premises. So we are going to talk about external and internal environment and give examples under them. The next one is, fourth one is identification of alternative. So this step in planning is to find the alternative courses of action. We use the term courses of action. It is nothing but the to-do list. This list will be followed by the other activities in the management. Okay. So based on organizational objectives and planning premises, because the second point was setting the objectives and the third step was planning premises, isn't it? So this is a fourth step. Fourth step is identification of alternatives. So based on the organizational objectives and planning premises, we are going to consider various plans. Anyways, for doing a particular product or a particular problem, we might have different solutions. All these comes as various alternative plans. Okay, so a particular objective can be achieved through a number of ways, isn't it? That is what each and every way is called a plan here. So all the alternatives cannot be analyzed. Some alternatives can be rejected. Why? Because they might not even satisfy the preliminary criteria. So, say for example, if I'm having a problem, okay, that has to be solved. I might have 20 ways. I cannot waste time in dealing with all these 20 ways. So I'm going to pick the best way. So before picking the best way, I should analyze few plans, and then among those few plans, I should pick the best plan. So I need not consider every plan to be analyzed. So I'm going to check whether all these alternatives satisfy the preliminary criteria first. If they satisfy the preliminary criteria, those will be listed under the number of alternatives. I repeat, say for example, I am having a problem. Okay, I am finding 20 ways to solve that problem. These 20 ways need not be analyzed in detail. First, I am going to check whether these are passing through the preliminary criteria. If they pass through the preliminary criteria, those plans alone are considered as alternative solutions. Only those course of actions are alone taken into account. So when we talk about preliminary criteria, the examples for them will be minimum investment or minimum cost required, matching that with the present business condition, market conditions, government policies, skilled workers, techniques available, etc. Few plants might demand resources or equipment that are not available in the organization. We should drop them because we have the other solutions, isn't it? I've told example in our example, I've told there are 20 ways to achieve the goal. If one solution demands one particular equipment to be bought, I can ignore that. I have 19 other solutions. I'm going to check if all or most of the solutions demand an equipment only, I'll have to buy that equipment. If not, I'm going to just simply drop the plan. So we are going to check with the first. I'll repeat this: identification of alternatives. We are going to find the possible ways for a particular possible solution for the particular problem, and then we are going to check them with the preliminary criteria. If they pass through the preliminary criteria, they are listed as alternatives. This is how we identify the alternatives. Only the alternatives which meet the preliminary criteria might be chosen for the further evaluation or detailed analysis. So the next fifth step here is evaluation of alternatives. Here only we are going to do detailed study about the alternatives that are identified. In the fourth step, though we are going to have n number of alternatives, we are going to do a preliminary test to pick only the possible alternatives because we should not waste time analyzing all the alternatives. So the fifth step is evaluation of alternatives. Here, the alternatives considered for the analysis according to the preliminary criteria alone are taken. Each alternative course of action is evaluated based on profitability, capital investment, risk involved, gestation period. Profitability, here I'm going to check how much would be the profit if I'm going to implement that plan. The second one is capital investment. Obviously, we need to know about that. The budget are being set by the customers. They are going to give quote all these. Based on that only we can take. An organization also demands a profit out of it. And risk involved in executing the plan and the period, time duration to achieve all these. All these are considered, okay, in the evaluation process. So we are going to have each and every alternative course of action and do this evaluation based on all these attributes or features. And each of these alternatives may have certain advantages and disadvantages. So we are going to check all those. An alternative may appear to be most profitable, but it might require a large investment cost and also it may take a large amount of time. Even that has to be taken. It is just not focusing on profit alone. We should focus on the investment cost and also the time period. And some might be less profitable, but it might involve only the least or least risk, risk factors. So we are going to consider all these factors that I've listed: period, time period, risk involved, capital investment required, profitability. These are the main. I cannot ignore any of these attributes. I'm going to consider all of this. These are the very basic attributes. No? So additional attributes can be added or ignored. But these four attributes are very important. So I'm going to evaluate each and every alternative with all of this. So each and every alternative will have its own advantages and disadvantages. So we're going to consider all these. Okay. And also intangible factors such as goodwill of the company, employee moral, personal relations are also considered during this phase because the human resources are involved here. So all these factors should also be considered so that the planning is better made. There is no certainty about the outcome of the product, the second outcome of the alternative. Though I pick a best plan, I'm not that sure about the outcome of it because there are some changes in there are some in the environment is subject to change. Though I execute the plan well inside the organization, there might be a market crash or something else, environmental factors or government policies, etc. See, few applications were being have been banned by the government, isn't it? Think about all those organizations' profit and planning process. All those should be modified now. So we are going to consider all those also. And then the evaluation works is not that easy task. It is complicated. Though I find many alternatives, evaluate them and pick the best plan, there might be changes that might happen in the future and this plan might even get collapsed. Or there might be a demand to modify the plan. So it is little complicated. We should pay keen attention to this and pick up the best plan, isn't it? So if you're picking up the best plan is not this point. Here we are just dealing only with the evaluation of alternatives. The sixth plan is all about choice of alternative. The sixth point, look at the last point in the slide. It is the choice of alternative. Nothing but selecting alternatives. So after evaluation of various alternatives, the most appropriate course of action or the most appropriate plan is being selected. If more than one alternative is suitable also, we are going to check with all those alternatives possibly. If we have enough time, we are going to see all those alternatives. Okay. And then based on the situation demands, we are going to pick the best plan. So with this, 6 points are over. 2 more steps are left. The seventh step in the planning process is formulation of supporting plan. In the sixth step, it is selecting alternative, which means I'm picking the best plan. That plan is called the overall plan or major plan. Now, the seventh step is formulation of supporting plan, which means we are going to talk about the minor plans or derivative plans. The plans that are for different departments. I'm going to split the work. Do I have an overall plan? Say, for example, if our college is aiming to get the first rank in the zone, in that case, it should allocate that to the different departments. Each and every department should produce good results so that the college gets the better rank. So it is formulation of supporting plans. So these are the plans, minor plans that are given to the department level. And these might include, say for example, you can ask me what could be the derivative plans. It could be anything, but the simple derivative plans could be buying of raw materials, recruitment of new staff, training of staff, advertisement plan, purchasing equipment. See, all these are not directly involved in the planning process itself. The advertisement plan is nothing to do with the development of the product. But then, once the product is developed, to achieve the goal, to gain the profit, because the objective is not just to produce a product, to produce or to manufacture a product that earns profit to the department or to the organization. So we need something called as advertisement plan, buying of raw material. I've told, see, we are going to use the available resources, but then based on the products that are being developed, we need something called as raw material, recruitment of staff or allocating staff, recruitment. You need not even consider about recruitment. Look at the other point, training of staff. I'm not going to recruit new staff for this. Okay, the recruitment here is about taking people from the organization and making them do this particular project. Okay, so training, obviously, all these are the supporting plans that are needed. Okay, then the last eighth step in planning process is establishing a sequence of activities. So after formulating the basic and derivative plans, the sequence of activities is determined so that the plan is put into action or these plans are put into action. So we are going to consider like a periodic review also for this all these minor plans, whether they are working well. These periodic review is very important because these are minor plans. When these one of these minor plans fail also, we can redo them, re-execute them. So we are going to have a periodic review. And at last, we are going to mention about the start time and end time of the work so that we might know within which time we will be able to complete. Example, who will be doing the specific task, when it has to be completed, what exactly has to be done. So these are the 8 steps in the planning process. So these are the 8 steps. Okay, that is discussed here. Then the other way, with 6 points alone, the planning process is being given. 1 or 2 points are clubbed here. Okay, that the first step is ignored. Opportunities is not coming here because with opportunities as a basis only, we are going to set the objectives. So all these are then at last we have something called as review and follow. After creating the list of activities, we do have something called as review and follow. I have already told in the sequence of activities itself, we do have something called as periodic review plan. So tomorrow we are going to see types of planning. Okay. So the second topic in the syllabus is over. The third topic is types of plan. If you have any doubts, you can ask me now. Thank you, students.